Well, jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass.
Hey everyone, welcome to another video on the JayBee
Hey.
Milly channel. Today we are going to be reviewing the Loch Ness mess, which is Scooby-Doo featuring, again, the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, so I think that this is an interesting episode. Basically, theoretically this should be set in the UK, right? But whether it is or not, we'll properly analyze in a little bit here. So are we doing a plot summary for this one? I think I can sum it up.
Oh, go for it. Our first ever JayBee plot summary?
I think I've done a few, but
I
this is
don't
definitely
think
my
so.
first one. I think you have to rethink that, but definitely my first one for a very, very long time. Maybe my first TV show review, or but okay. So the Loch Ness mess. The Scooby gang are on their way to see Uncle Shaggy's Nathaniel. That doesn't make any sense, but Shaggy's Uncle Nathaniel. And on the way there, they notice that they have encountered the Harlem Globetrotters again, who they promptly invite to see Uncle Nathaniel. And some spooky things start to occur. We get the emergence of a few of the white ghosts, one who exclaims that the British is coming, one that tells them to leave, and it's all looking a bit weird, but nothing out of the ordinary until a boating trip exposes that there's a Loch Ness monster or some type of sea serpent under the waters. And from there, it's about unmasking the ghost, unmasking the sea serpent, and finding out what the whole mystery is about the loch. Will they find it? Won't they find it? I guess we're about to find out.
Indeed. So, let's take a look into this. So, like you say, it's where they meet the Globetrotters. So as it is, the gang are on their way to visit Shaggy's uncle, and they're really hungry as always. So they stop by this almost like a services area, like a picnic area where they see the Harlem Globetrotters, and they acknowledge that they've met them before, which is rare, right?
Yeah, it's nice to see you again. So it isn't just they know them, it's oh, you're the famous Globetrotters, we know you. It's hey, nice to see you again. So it's the first bit of continuity that we're really getting, as even with I think Don Knotts and who is it? Well, Don Knotts and the Three Stooges appear a couple of times and they don't really get any acknowledgement of them knowing them prior. But here we do, which is really, really nice.
It certainly is. And something else that I think's, quite interesting is just how promptly they invite them along. And almost like there's no questions asked, they just kind of go, which kind of perhaps isn't exactly the balance of real life, but interesting just to kind of act as a premise.
Yeah.
It's a story device.
Here's a kind of interesting curiosity with this. We get the return of the Harlem Globetrotters van. Of course, you have the Mystery Machine. And then on the way to Uncle Nathaniel, we kind of get, like I say in the plot summary, the emergence of a few ghosts. And here's something really interesting. And I've got some type of untrue and ridiculous fan theory. So, the Harlem Globetrotters, of course, they're black, right? But in both Harlem Globetrotter episodes, we have Redbeard, and then we have the ghost here. They've been nothing but absolutely white. So my kind of ridiculous headcanon is that they had to use all the colours that they had on the Globetrotters, so the ghosts had to just be they didn't have the budget to colour the ghosts. I don't know, Whoa, you look absurd. Well, no, isn't it a coincidence that in both Globetrotter episodes, the ghosts have just been one white colour? Almost like it's not been coloured in. What? Isn't it possible, though, on a limited budget?
I would like to express that anything said by JayBee is of his own views and his own opinions.
Oh no,
they are in no way associated or affiliated or the views of JayBee and Milly Incorporated.
No, but don't you think it's weird how in both Globetrotter episodes they've forgotten to colour the monster?
I can't say it's something that I've noticed.
I just thought it was interesting.
Well, anyway, something that else that we can talk about is before they leave as they're leaving the picnic area, that's when we catch our first glimpse of the monster of the cove or the Loch Ness or whatever you want to call them.
Well, it's so weird. They mention a sea serpent, but obviously the episode's called the Loch Ness Mess. Velma jokingly says, "You're telling me we've got our very own Loch Ness monster?" And obviously, it definitely isn't in Scotland, right? Because they're going to Shaggy's uncle, who has the same accent. No one in the local area has a
He
Scottish
looks like
accent.
the guy from Pinocchio.
Who, Geppetto?
The grandpa.
Yeah, Geppetto.
I don't know. I've never seen Pinocchio.
Oh, so it's weird. I don't know why they've called it the Loch Ness this, the Loch Ness that. I think it just would have been, but we're stuck with it. We're stuck with it. But I do like the design of the monster an awful lot. You don't?
Nah.
Why not?
I think it's one of those things where time and progression's a curse. Because I've seen the other Loch Ness movie, the Loch Ness movie first, I will use that as the standard. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd prefer that one, the Loch Ness Monster one. But at the same time with this, I appreciate that for like the first instance of a sea serpent really within Scooby, I appreciate that it isn't just like block colour green and it looks like a standard cartoon of, Nessie.
Doesn't it look more like a Chinese dragon with the head detail?
Well, I don't know. It looks just like a sea serpent, but not the colour you'd expect. That's the thing, like it's colour, like the fact that it's all purple and stuff, it's just so interesting.
Okay, well anyway, they get on the road. Shaggy's driving the mystery machine, which, they do pick up on has been a rarity. They go across the bridge, which looks like the rotating bridge from a couple of episodes ago.
I completely forgot about the rotating bridge, to be honest.
I expected that bridge to spin and I can't think why.
It reminded me more of like the kind of connective bridge between like Halloween World and not Halloween World in Goblin King. And that's like the thing that they crossed where the Headless Horseman couldn't cross. I mean, honestly, I don't know what to think about this episode. It's actually the only episode that I distinctly, apart from the first Batman and Robin crossover, it's the only episode that I distinctly remember. Like when the ghost does the galloping thing and says the British are coming. I remember that scene watching it as a child.
I'm sure your parents didn't like that because I could imagine you mimicking it and like cantering around the house screaming it.
No. I mean, I don't know. I have no memories of those times apart from what I watched and what I played, like Pokemon Emerald. It's just nostalgia. Very nostalgic.
So we do meet the uncle, and what's your initial thoughts? Because honestly, like I say, mine's, they're from Disney. Didn't they like create Pinocchio?
Yeah. It's just Shaggy, isn't it? It's basic. I mean, it's helpful on a few fronts. One, you imagine just reskinning the Shaggy model from an animated point of view is cost effective and also time effective. But also for kids watching it, there's no doubt that this person is connected to Shaggy. It's funny because it's like all the Shaggys are kind of looking the same with all the portraits. So it's almost a victory on all fronts from a comedy point of view, and as a standing point of view, and an animation point of view. So I just like them. Like, I don't think it needed to be a Shaggy relative, but the fact that it fleshes out Shaggy's backstory a bit more is interesting, and I like it.
Okay, and then I think they go to Shaggy's uncle's house, and this is where we see a little basketball skit.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they throw a couple of these in and almost feel like it's a Harlem Globetrotters tick every time they do it.
Yeah, I don't think we ever get like the height of the Harlem Globetrotter game from the last episode, but I like that they remind us what their skill set is without having to like repeat it every 5-10 minutes. But not only that, the fact that it plays into like the last act of the episode as well, I appreciate that, because it's like for once now we get to use the guest skill to their advantage.
Yeah. Okay, one thing that I do really like about this episode is because it's Shaggy's uncle, you get to see more context. Like looking back at the picture album of Shaggy and Scooby when they were little was really sweet.
Yeah.
I loved that.
We've never seen that before. It's like the first inkling of a backstory.
It's like the first scene we saw from a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Oh.
Okay, and so this is where, like you said, there's a ghost shouting danger. There's another one that screamed the British are coming, and here's where we just kind of lead to a little bit of a kooky chase sequence.
Do we?
Yeah, well, it's not really a chase, is it? It's like a ghost shows up, they move. Another ghost shows up, they move. It's not your high, like fast-paced, what's new, music blaring, you feel the suspense. It's just a, like, let's go this way. There's another ghost, let's go that way. Let's throw a basketball. It's not very
So there's nothing in it to get you pumped up?
No, not at all. So then they go to explore the bay, and they threaten to report.
Wait, they explore Daphne?
I quit.
No, isn't she the bear?
You're a disgusting simp.
Oh no.
They go to explore the cove and threaten to report some people.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. There's like a boat hire group, isn't there?
Yeah, they won't lend them a boat, so they're like, we're gonna report you, and then they end up getting a boat where they dive down, and ultimately this is their first glimpse at the monster, I think.
Yeah, and I enjoy it just because you don't necessarily expect it. Like, I don't know, I just like the reveal. It's one of my favourite villain reveals in that I think they could have done it either one of two ways. Either one, done it a way that I think would have been better for the animators again, where they could just be boating along, maybe have the Globetrotters wakeboarding or something, and then have the kind of head of the monster emerging and chases them for a bit, and then they're like, oh jeepers, what was that? But the fact that they dive under, and I think that this is some of my favourite sequences from the whole series yet. Like the fact that they're underwater, they have an awesome underwater theme tune, which is almost like slow jazz, and then they've also animated loads of like fish and marine life as well. I really like that. And almost the monster emerges from a shipwreck as well, so I don't know, I just like the whole sequence of how the monster's revealed a lot. I almost just wish that there was more time on the monster and less of the stuff at the start where it's just plain white ghosts.
Okay, interesting. And I think it's something that we're going to come on to, I think, a little bit more in our individual reviews, is the thought on having those two different types of monsters. So then we get another basketball scene as they ultimately capture the three ghosts and unmask them to, of course, be, big surprise, the three grumpy people who didn't want them to hire a boat.
Yeah, and there's some weird, wacky dude. I wrote his name down and I've lost it. It's Morgan, isn't it? And he faked everything. He forced the people to dress up. He was the kind of mechanical mastermind behind the sea serpent who we never see unmasked. That's the thing. I feel that when they call it the Loch Ness mess, for all there's no allusion to the monster there, really, I think you kind of need to deliver on a sea serpent story.
Yeah, I mean, okay, one thing I will say is I feel like the Loch Ness Monster movie tied up a lot of mess that this episode had made, in that we got like 3 unmaskings of the Loch Ness there to make up for the one that we didn't get here.
Triple the Nessie.
So I guess to switch up the scene, shall I go first with a verdict?
Yeah.
For me, this episode had some good intentions. I think it was really interesting to see them go and visit Shaggy's family. I also really liked to see the return of the Harlem Globetrotters, because ultimately I really enjoyed their first movie, the first new movie that they were in. I guess that kind of is the end of the positivity for me. I really didn't enjoy that there was multiple villains. I'd have preferred to either see the Loch Ness or the 3 white ghosts, and even then, until the last scene, I don't think it fully registered that there were 3 and that there was then the 3 people. I think there was quite a lot of inconsistencies, spur of the moment things that were kind of added in, editing. I don't know, I just overall wasn't impressed with the execution on this. It didn't seem to have much story, much development. I think it was perhaps just reaping off the success that the first Harlem Globetrotters one did get, because ultimately that was done incredibly well and I'm sure was, you know, received well by many, and they just kind of wanted to claw on that. So yeah, for me it's a definite pass. Now JayBee, for you, is it a smash or pass?
Oh, it's just a tricky one. I don't think my mindset's the best today. Like, I'm very bored, very sleepy. I didn't have a lot of fun with the episode. Like, I think visually, it's got one. I think visually, it's fair to say it's got my favorite sequence in the whole show so far. That underwater sequence is my favorite that we've had.
Yeah, but you're a bit of a water baby.
Yeah, but it's my favorite so far. The monster design for the sea serpent is my favorite so far. So there's a lot for me to recommend here because, like I say, when they call it the Loch Ness mess, they are promising a sea serpent story. People might not see it that way, but you have to see that. Like, what's Loch Ness for? Like, if they're not going to Loch Ness, don't call it that. Because what they are doing then is sea serpent, Loch Ness. Okay, you're alluding to the Loch Ness monster, and they just didn't tell a good Loch Ness monster or sea serpent story. It's like they had an idea. Wouldn't this be a cool villain? Wouldn't this be a cool premise? And then kind of went, oh, maybe we don't have enough budget to tell a story based solely on the beach, or I don't know what went wrong. But it seemed like this was two concepts for an episode rolled into one for either timing or budget or something. So for all, you know, I would happily watch clips of this online. I don't really want to watch this one again, because if I want a cool Loch Ness monster story, then I'll do
the Loch Ness movie.
The Loch Ness movie.
And if you want a good Harlem Globetrotters one, you'll go back to the first one.
Possibly. But I do love the underwater sequence. But I think overall I'm definitely going to have to pass because, I don't know, it just isn't what it says. It's not what it's titled, and so, I don't know.
No. Okay, well, unanimous pass. I guess while we finished this episode, that ends the series 1, is it, of the new Scooby-Doo movies? So we have a Q&A going out in place of Friday's episode, as we do to kind of celebrate the end of every series before commencing on with series 2 on Monday.
Hey,
Any other community news, JayBee? Anything happening other than, of course, we have seen Trick or Treat?
Hey, and actually that, I don't know, I get so fatigued around the series. I don't want to do the series, but I'm glad that we are doing it. I find that season 1 is a make or break for me, and here I've actually really enjoyed it. Maybe it's just an off day for me today, you know, maybe if I reviewed this later it'll be different. But I'm like, Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo kind of relit the fire inside of me. It lit a fire inside my soul. So please don't do that, because the audio will pick it up. So, there's some exciting stuff coming. There's Milly.
Hi.
There's JayBee.
Bye.
There's loads. So who knows where it's gonna go? Will it go bad? Will it go well? Who knows? Time will tell, but it's gonna be a pleasure to have everyone along for the ride. So, again, please remind me when this goes out. Is it Wednesday today?
Yeah, Wednesday today.
So, in 2 days' time, we will have the Q&A.
And then on Saturday, an interview.
It's the worst thumbnail I've ever done for one. But content-wise and guest-wise, I can see this being a lot of people's favourite interview, or at least top 3. So, stick around for that, because it's a surprising one. It's been a long time in the works. About 8-9 months now, so like it's gonna be amazing. People are gonna love it. So yeah, if you want to see that and so much more, then please like, comment, and subscribe.
JayBee and Milly.